Dirk,
Yes,
the agenda is as is, correct?
it is.
The YouTube live stream's rolling, so whenever you guys want to kick it off, go for it.
No,
You have a-
Lori.
Okay. Well,
I texted her. She hasn't responded.
I'll give her a minute or two. Well, I've got 5:30. Karen, why don't we go ahead and call the roll?
Okay. Andy,
Here.
Fisher,
Here,
Crowell,
Here.
Nave,
Here.
Powell,
Here.
Slings, Crab,
Here.
all right. This meeting's called to order on April 16, 2020. We have a quorum. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second? Is that Rick?
Yes.
Any discuss?
Fisher,
Yes.
Crowell,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Sling, Crab,
Yes.
Andy, Andy,
Yes.
All right. Item 1C, District Vision and Mission. Rick?
Southeast Polk Community School District. Learn, lead, and live. Success for college, career, and civic life. Engage all students in learning a challenging curriculum delivered through quality instruction.
Thank you. Item 1D is public comments. Jason, do we receive those by text?
There are no questions in the Zoom chat at this time.
I would say give it, I don't know, 60 seconds for someone, now that you've announced it, for them to type.
Sure.
And if we don't see anything at, say, 5:33, move forward. So,
Okay.
and Kevin says he has not received anything via email either. So,
Oh, yeah, I just saw that. Thank you.
Jason, is there a, oh, wait, never mind. There isn't a lag. Okay.
We need some Jeopardy music.
I'm sure there are royalties with that. Need to find some background Southeast Polk fight song or something.
There you go.
Instrumental version.
My clock just hit the 5:33. At this time, then, what doesn't appear we have any public comments, so we'll close those and move on to item Roman numeral 1E, consent agenda. Can I have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
All right, is there any discussion or questions on the consent agenda? Doesn't appear there are any. Karen,
Crowell,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Lori's on now.
I'm a yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Fisher,
yes. Did you get that, Karen? That I was a yes.
yes,
I was the last one.
yes.
All right. Roman numeral 2, old and new business. Item A is confirmation of next meeting. Have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Rick Powell.
I would add one thing. Obviously, it's May 7th, but tomorrow the governor has indicated that she is going to make some sort of announcement regarding school. There may be a need for a meeting in between May 7th and this meeting.
Fair enough.
All right.
Nave,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Slings,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Crowell,
Yes.
All right. Motion's approved. Next item is 2B, board resolution on the extension of closure. Can I have a motion first and a second?
Don't make a motion.
Second, from Lori.
All right. Any discussion? Questions? Why don't we read it first? I guess, Adam, can you read the resolution?
Absolutely. Resolution, pandemic response and emergency suspension of policy. Whereas Iowa Code Chapter 279.8 authorizes local school boards to govern their respective districts, including adopting policies for their own governance. And whereas the board may, by formal action, suspend or rescind board policy as deemed necessary, appropriate, or in the best interest of the district. And whereas on March 11th, 2020, the World Health Organization characterized COVID-19 as a pandemic. And whereas on March 13th, 2020, the President of the United States declared a national state of emergency, and on March 15th, 2020, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds recommended closure of all public and private K-12 schools in Iowa until April 13th, 2020 to contain the spread of COVID-19. And whereas on March 17th, 2020, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds declared a state of public health disaster emergency under the authority granted through the Iowa Constitution, Article 4, subsection 1(8), and Iowa Code subsection 29C.1, 0.61, 135.1406, and 135.144, and directed implementation of the Iowa Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management's Iowa Emergency Response Plan in response to the novel coronavirus or COVID-19. And whereas it fulfills a public purpose to continue to pay district employees during this closure to prevent or contain the spread of COVID-19, to promote morale, and to help retain current employees following the closure. And whereas on March 17th, 2020, the Iowa legislature passed and the governor signed Senate File 2408, granting waiver of the instructional time requirements in Iowa Code Chapter 279.10 for all public school districts closing before April 12th, 2020, in order to prevent or contain the spread of COVID-19, and granting Governor Reynolds the ability to waive instructional time requirements for any public school district which closes on or after April 12th, 2020, to prevent or contain the spread of COVID-19. Whereas on April 2nd, 2020, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds recommended extended closure of all public and private K through 12 schools in Iowa until April 30th, 2020 to contain the spread of COVID-19. And whereas the Iowa Department of Education, which has the authority to establish and interpret graduation requirements and to oversee other crucial aspects of public education, is providing written guidance to Iowa school districts on issues related to COVID-19, including but not limited to student attendance, distance online learning, high school credit, meal distribution, and other issues. And whereas the Iowa Department of Education issued COVID-19 guidance, provision of continuous learning. This guidance allows school districts to provide either voluntary educational enrichment opportunities to students or required educational services. Voluntary education enrichment opportunities include educational opportunities provided to students where participation by students is not required and will not be graded other than voluntary completion of concurrent enrollment courses and credit recovery. Required educational services include educational services provided to students who are required to participate. Student work may be graded and credit may be awarded. Equity must be provided for and AEA services resume to the extent possible for required educational services. Competencies attained through either voluntary or required educational services may be considered. If done on a voluntary basis, they may only be considered after school returns to session. Now, therefore be it resolved that the Southeast Polk Board hereby suspends provisions of its board policies and or hold policies as identified by the district superintendent or designee if such suspension is necessary to implement written guidance from state or federal agencies relating to containing COVID-19 for the duration identified in the governor's state of public health emergency declaration of March 17th, 2020, or as otherwise determined by the board. Be it further resolved that the district superintendent will consult with and report to the board as feasible and appropriate regarding the emergency closure and efforts to implement written guidance from health and government agencies. Be it further resolved that the district superintendent is authorized to close any school facility without further action by the board of directors. Such closure shall continue during the emergency created by COVID-19 pandemic until such time as the superintendent, in consultation with appropriate health and government authorities, deems it in the best interest of the district and its students to open schools. Be it further resolved that the district superintendent is authorized, based upon the needs of the districts and the guidance from health and government agencies, to direct staff assignments during district closures, including but not limited to essential employees who must report to work, employees who may be reassigned, and employees whose services are not needed. Be it further resolved, the access to public school grounds and public school buildings of the district may be limited as directed by the superintendent during district closures. Be it further resolved that the district has elected to provide voluntary educational enrichment opportunities to students in the district during this period of school closures. Be it further resolved that in the interest of public health and or to comply with federal or state health department recommendations or guidance, the board encourages the public to attend or listen to its open public meetings via telephone, video conference, or live streaming on the internet, and the board may also limit public comment to written comments. Be it further resolved that the board reserves the right to adjust board meeting dates, times, and locations during the district-wide emergency closure in a manner consistent with open meeting law, and notes that any and all board members may attend board meetings electronically as permitted by law. Be it further resolved, the execution of this resolution is conclusive evidence of the board's approval of this action and of the authority granted herein. The board warrants it that it has, and at the time of this action had full power and lawful authority to adopt this instrument. This resolution will remain in full force and effect until it is rescinded or amended by subsequent action of the board.
All right, thank you, Adam. Is there any comments or questions?
Sure, I've got a couple if that's all right.
Sure.
Since that's not the way most of us normally speak, just a few things of clarification there. On the board policy, again, that provides the board the method to suspend certain policies that might conflict with guidance that's issued by the state or federal agencies in response to the pandemic. And it also ensures that it gives me the authority to act to comply with those without having to have board action each time that occurs. Another very important piece is the employee compensation piece. And just to be clear here, we're doing the same thing as we have been doing. Certified staff will continue as per their contract, and classified staff will continue compensation based on their regular scheduled hours. School closure is through April 30th at this time, but as I said earlier, The governor has made comments that tomorrow she will give some further guidance to schools, and we have literally no idea what that guidance may be. So we'll see that together at the press conference tomorrow. Another piece in there is the waiver of instructional time requirements for our students. We also interpret that resolution language to waive the need to make up staff contract days missed. And we know that work is occurring on the Southeast Polk continuous learning plan, which we'll hear more about tonight from Dr. Latham. At some point, we will need to approve academic calendar changes. But again, with the meeting tonight and knowing that there'll be an announcement of some sort tomorrow to avoid confusion, the decision was made to wait to act on that until we know the full extent of closure. Again, our academic calendar is a board approved document, and we have made changes to that. But again, kind of just to be clear, we're with these resolutions saying that we recognize that students will not have to make up this time, and we recognize that this language also says that staff contract days are being fulfilled as they work through this time as well. And then the final piece in there, and something that was very different from our previous resolution, was the continuous learning plan language, because that has been new since the March date. And we did go along with 90% of the districts in the state of Iowa with the voluntary VEEO is what is being called, voluntary educational enrichment opportunities. And we'll hear a lot more about that tonight. So.
Seems good.
Any idea why all of a sudden the staff started worrying that they weren't paid any longer? Nothing?
Not sure. I don't know if there were, or if other districts are talking about doing different things. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know that there were rumors from other districts about them being pushed over onto the unemployment rolls. And the thought there was that they might be able to take advantage of that extra, the extra amount coming from the federal government, the extra 600, I think it is. That might be why it was a peaked concern for staff.
Just to be clear, I don't have a problem paying any of the staff through the remainder of the year.
Agreed.
Okay.
Which is why I think we took the quick action that we did. And I guess after I started getting some of these questions, I went back and read this resolution. And my guess is there's a lot of legalese there, and it's not totally clear from reading that, perhaps, at least as clear as I think it was, at least in our minds when we voted on it to begin. But we're trying to look out for everyone.
So, Dr. Lutnick, just for everybody's peace of mind, this will carry through the end of April, correct? And we'll have to redo this again if we do not make any changes on May 7th.
Correct. And that's why I threw out there that it's likely we'll need to have another board meeting and a special board meeting to address this if that closure is extended, which seems pretty likely. But again, we have no idea, and I have no inside information.
Many more pieces of the puzzle to come, right?
Right.
I think we're inching closer to the magic number on our zone, however. So I think that kind of tells us potentially what the comments will be tomorrow. I don't think we're out of the clear. Anyway.
Good evening, board. Just for me to add something to this is Kevin Bacon, the Executive Director of Business Services. Our classified employees or hourly employees are paid 2 weeks in arrears. So as we say, if things end April 30th, they're actually paid on another paycheck 2 weeks after that time frame to get to that time frame. So pay wouldn't stop for them as of April 30th. They'll get paid for that time 2 weeks after that. If that makes sense.
It would stay as normal, right?
Correct.
There'll be any interruption of pay.
Rick, could you say that again?
I said I just hope we make sure that there's no interruption of pay at this time.
There will be no interruption in pay through the closure period.
Great.
I'll throw something out here. I know we're just discussing at this point the resolution and the motion, but if the governor, let me see if I can put this straight. If the governor would not close or recommend or order closure, that's something we still have the discretion on, is it, or is it not?
We do. The way it's been communicated to us, though, is for any days that we would not be in session, we would have to make that up at some point.
Okay,
But again, common sense and the safety of our kids, our staff, our community are gonna take the front seat in all of this.
right. Any other comments or questions by the board on this?
Well, yes, but it'll be brief. I just want to say I'm glad that we are taking each step one by one and not coming out and making statements like some other districts close to us that they will not be returning, even though I think the likelihood of us returning is very slim to none. So I do appreciate that we're taking one step at a time, as much as it might be frustrating to everybody not knowing. Rest assured, I think we'll have some answers soon.
Anything else, anyone? All right, Karen,
Powell. Powell,
Yes.
Slings,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Fisher,
yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
All right, next item is 2C, to set a public hearing date for budget amendment FY 2020.
Yes, board, this is a typical annual placeholder for a budget amendment as needed. I will, over the next week here, our efforts through going and projecting costs continuing through the end of the year. This may or may not be needed this year, but I just want to put this on as a placeholder for the May 21st meeting.
Hey, Kevin?
Yes.
This is Brett here. You may not have them tonight, but I guess maybe for the next one, do you have an idea of how much, I guess we're from the taxes that we're missing out on this month and probably next month? You have a better idea where we're at on that?
I have a short, yeah, I was printing that for the monthly financials, but as you were talking about it now, our taxes collected to the general fund last year compared to this year we were to collect a little bit more than last year, just under $1 million. Looking at just the March collections, we collected about 50% of what we collected last year for March. Now, that would just be from your regular property owners that don't go through escrow when they're escrowing the mortgage. As I see the payment come through April, which is the second half payment, if you will, for property taxes, those are kind of recouped back up to the level they should be. So I think we'll still have a little bit of a downturn in what we expected to collect, but for the most part, we have collected, I would say, from 90 to 95% of what we need to typically do the second half payment for taxes.
And just another quick one on that. So as we work through this with the escrows and stuff, we eventually will get that money back, right? It'll just be future.
They would be collected through Polk County, through their office as delinquent taxes to those property tax owners, correct? Now, there could be some occasions where they don't collect and they just move forward, but again, from our standpoint, we don't collect them personally. Polk County collects them and then Polk County distributes those funds to us.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Kevin? All right, could I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion by the board or questions?
Who
All right.
seconded that?
Adam.
Thank you.
All right, Karen.
Slinks,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Nate,
Yes.
Powell,
yes,
Next item is Roman numeral 2D, Phase 2 Staffing Plan, Classified Staff.
So moved.
Second that one.
Is there questions or comments?
Not to be the downer here, but this is presumably for 2021. Worst case scenario, this continues on into the fall. We obviously at that point in time don't have the need for this particular position at the start of the year. Do we still run forward with this because it's part of the staffing plan, or do we reevaluate as we get closer? How does that function in terms of staffing plans for positions like this? Because I mean, in terms of teachers, we need them, whether it's in person or online. We absolutely need them, and that's true with most of our associates and our hourly individuals as well. But this being a new position where someone isn't filling that role currently, how does that function in worst case scenario world?
That's a good question. I think right now we would move forward. It technically is a new position, but it's really just a change in whether it's a contracted out position or whether it's one of our own. But as we move forward, I think we need to get the word out and take a look at what a pool would be. Yeah, there's a lot of things we don't know about moving forward, and I mean, whether the fall is a certainty or not, that's one of them. I don't really know how to answer that, Adam.
No, and that's fair. I'm kind of putting you on the spot there with that, because I mean, I think there's a lot of questions to be answered as far as moving this forward, because depending on whose timetable you follow, yeah, there are certain surgeon generals that are saying this lasts well into 2021, 2022, which in that case, it's a whole different conversation. I was just curious about putting someone new into a position that doesn't actually exist if we're not physically present at the buildings. Like I understand Permar currently holds that position. It just was an interesting thought process or theory exercise. So,
Dr. Lubnick, we're still paying Permar that contracted money, correct? I mean, we're.
That would be a question for Mr. McCall. I can't answer that off the top of my head. I'm not sure how that contract is, the details are set up.
He's still on.
Yeah, I think he's coming in.
Coming back.
Yes, with the Permar position, now remember when we hire our own campus person monitor, we are hiring at the gross wages. Now what we're saving so that over the Permar person is $10,000. So incrementally, this particular position is going to cost us an additional $10,000. The Permar position itself will not, the one that we're replacing will not be there.
Kevin, I think he was asking though, is that are we paying Permar currently since they don't actually have anybody on campus since campuses are closed?
I'm sorry, that we get time sheets, we get time cards from them. So if they're not doing that hourly work, they're not being paid.
Okay.
Yeah, Steve Pettit just messaged me the exact same thing. They're paid for hours worked. So if the hours are not worked, then we're not paying. Good question. Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Kevin.
I guess I would just think if we're going to start a process, we'd have to, they'd have to give 2 weeks or, I mean, there's kind of a lot of unknowns on that, but I kind of agree with Adam, but on the other hand, it's like if we need someone to start in August and we say, well, we don't know, that we're probably going to lose some candidates that could be our best candidates for that position. So I would be for just going through the regular motions, and it is what it is. If we have to, eat a couple more weeks of salary on getting the right person.
And we can always do the posting and go through the initial, just to see what kind of interest there is out there too. And we don't have to hire immediately. That's something we'll definitely discuss.
Sounds good.
Any other questions or comments by board members? Karen?
Crab,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Slings,
Yes.
All right, that concludes the part of agenda that has our action items or our business meeting. Now we're to Roman numeral 3, which are topics for discussion. Item A is superintendent's report. Dr. Halupnik.
Thank you. I want to start with good news because we all need good news, that's for sure. And I just want to say a gigantic thank you to all of our staff. They are working like crazy, rolling up their sleeves, doing things that we've never done before. And again, depending on how you look at this, this is either day 19 or day 22. It's 19 school days today. And to think of the changes that have been made, the things that we're doing right now, it really is just short of incredible. So a huge thank you to all of our staff, and along with that then would be our community, and have to recognize that all of our community partners that have been reaching out to support us, whether that's through volunteers or resources or funding, or just to say we're here and we're ready to do whatever you need to do. This really is a special place to call home, and I think we all recognize that and realize that, but these kind of times bring that out. And so another huge thank you. We mentioned previously our educational plans, that the Southeast Polk Continuous Learning Plan, and I'm not going to steal Dr. Latham's thunder, but that also goes along with that incredible work to see the level of detail, the level of professionalism, and the fact that a lot of our peers are looking at that to figure out how to do theirs. It just speaks a lot for our people, our teachers, our curriculum people, and Joellen and her staff, and she'll tell us all about that in a few minutes. Food nutrition, another one. It's boggling. The grab and go meals on Mondays and Thursdays at 6 different sites. It's growing in use. On Monday, there were nearly 11,000 meals served. Today, we served over 2,000 students and over 16,000 meals. We passed the 60,000 meal threshold so far as a program in this 3 weeks. Again, huge thank yous to everyone involved. The need is obviously there, and the fact that we're able to do this for our kids, for the community, is just, it's really awesome. It just is. Some other things as far as good news goes, we're working on a technology assistance plan. We have been able to gather a lot of data on the needs within our community, and we're developing a plan right now to assist those that may need help with internet access as we continue to move forward with this. And we'll be having some more details with that over the next week or so here. Our district information page, we have a dedicated website with essential information related to everything regarding the pandemic. And we've developed a one-stop spot for learning. The thing has been created. It won't be ready to go live until early next week, hopefully on Monday, but I don't want to put that much pressure. We'll say early next week, where students and families can go to this one page, click on their building, and get to the work and how to contact their teachers and what's the schedule for that week and so on, just in one spot. So they don't have to hunt and peck through multiple buildings if they have multiple students and so on. So that's another piece of good news that has, again, come together very quickly. So I won't go through my monthly review. I put that together like I always do. You can see on there, I've got a lot of daily meetings, a lot of meetings that are maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday, dealing with just about everything you can imagine that relates to this pandemic, probably not unlike the things that you're doing right now with your work too. And so that these Zoom meetings have become kind of secondhand, and it feels like it's weird when I'm not doing one of these right now. But I can't wait till we can do these face to face again and not necessarily have to talk to the Brady Bunch screens that are out there. A little crisis response update. You know, our buildings remain closed, including our playgrounds and our athletic facilities. Again, that's not what we want to do. It goes against everything that we all believe in and the reason we do this work, but we have to do that to comply with state and local orders. So our buildings and playgrounds are closed. Rick, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. I want to also echo how great our district is doing with the crisis we're in, and I've heard nothing but positive things about our staff and all the buildings and our central office and our curriculum people. The one question I have, with those grab and go lunches that we're handing out on Mondays and Thursdays, are there any curriculum packets going out with them?
Again, I'm not going to steal Jo Ellen's thunder. She's going to talk about that during her section just in a couple minutes here, but there will be, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. Just a couple other things, and then I'll wrap up and let you ask more questions if you have them. From a communication standpoint, I talked about our dedicated page. A lot of the daily communications have now this week transitioned to the building level as that education plan is rolling out. The building level principals and teachers are doing a lot more of that first line contact with our families. So it's just been a little bit of a change as we've moved into that phase of where we are right now. Moving forward, we continue to appreciate everybody's patience as we work through this. Like I said, it's day 19 overall, day 4 of the implementation of our continuous learning plan. And we know that the governor's decision tomorrow potentially can change everything once again. We'll continue to work to keep everybody informed. And above all, we'll continue to work to ensure the safety of our students, our staff, and our community. And like we've said over and over again, together, we'll all get through this. So with that, I open it up to any questions that you might have.
I got a quick one. In terms of, we've been asking students, families, what their technology needs are, and especially in terms of the internet access. What kind of response are we getting? Do you feel like we have like vast majority of students covered with internet, or do we have a pretty good percentage that are still without that?
We have a pretty good handle on overall numbers. And I would say that the vast majority of our students have internet access, but we do have a chunk of families that do not. And so like I said, we're working right now to twofold to, number one, obtain the internet solutions, which are not easy to do right now because they're in high demand. And then number two, get an equitable and fair way to get them out to the families that need them. So I'm not prepared to throw a number out there, but it's not as great as you may think, but we do have a chunk that doesn't have access.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I know I've seen you Adam, Dirk, at the grab and goes. Have any of you guys, other board members, had a chance to attend any of them or to volunteer or help out with any of them? It is a very surreal experienced at some point in time, because at the same point in time where there's a lot of joy for people seeing each other again, it also shows you the need that even a district like ours, that, you know, has a relatively low free and reduced population, the impact and the necessity that that actually have. So if you get a chance, even just to stop in for 2 minutes, I wholeheartedly recommend it. Now, be careful, because as of like last week, there was no need for, you had to be careful how many people were in one building, because there was that much of a response from our staff and our community, which is a great thing. I walked into one at Altoona last Monday and walked in, did a head count, and once I got to 10, I looked at Amy and said, I'm going to the next building. See, and went over to Willowbrook and helped there for the day. But it is, it's a great thing to see, the help and the response from our community, but it's also very surreal as well, as far as seeing the needs. So.
Any other questions or comments for Dirk? All right. I see Kevin popping in here. The next item is 3B, monthly financials.
Good evening again, board. You have the monthly financials and just go through a few numbers with you. General fund revenues rose to over last year to 4.1%. This time through February, we were at 4.3% revenues above last year, so it's shot down just a little bit. Expenditures, I had 4.1% in the narrative. It's actually 5.1% increase in the general fund. All funds, revenue-wise, 1.2% increase, and expenditures 3.8% increase. One of the things, I appreciate this from Mr. Crabb. One of the things Mr. Crabb talked about and asked me about was a little piece in there I put about the special education balance. One of our offsets for revenues of those expenditures are Medicare revenues, Medicaid revenues, and we receive those revenues based on the time that we spend with students and the work we do with students. With students not being in the classroom and doing those things, we cannot seek reimbursement for those Medicaid costs. Now, on the other side, we are still paying our associates those costs. So because of that, we will see an incline or an increase within our special education deficit balance this year for those reasons alone. I've been talking with metro area school business officials, and this is one of the topics we've been talking about. How does this affect us? How does this affect our billings when it comes to special education billings? And how it affects all the way around when it comes to the Medicaid piece of it. We've had a number of meetings regarding FEMA, the amount of money that we'll be receiving as a school district from the CARES Act and from state DE is going to be prorated based on what we get for Title I. Based on the formulas I'm seeing, we're going to get roughly about, I'll put a number to this, about $425,000 to $450,000 under the CARES Act. For FEMA, it'd be much less than that. But note that our monthly payroll runs about $6 million. So the $425,000 is just a drop in the bucket of what we run as far as costs. With that said, and any other narratives within the monthly financials, or any other numbers, I'm open to answering any kind of questions you might have.
Kevin, go ahead.
Go ahead, Gary.
Kevin, do you have an idea of what that Medicaid number is?
Last year, I believe it was about $1.9 million in revenues. Now we'll still get what we have received so far this year.
Right.
But obviously with March and now April being out of it, we'll receive less than that.
So I've got kind of an obscure question for you, but it kept popping up on people's social media, so we'll call it that way, about how much money all the schools are saving because the kids aren't in there for utilities and so on and so forth. And I tried to explain to someone how minuscule of a part of our actual budget that actually is. Can you by any chance put that in some kind of context about if and there is any savings from utilities, and if so, how much that actually is? I know it's ridiculous, but
Yep, I can work up some numbers and provide that to the board. I won't have those on hand right now.
no, I didn't think you would, but thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else for Mr. Bacom?
Kevin, I just had a similar question on the transportation piece of it too, with fuel and mechanics, if you could add that in there. I guess all the pieces where we're saving.
And we're still paying our mechanics, we're still paying our employees, so there's no savings there. There will be a savings as far as diesel costs, things of that nature with that, but I can certainly run those numbers through as well.
Yeah, like maintenance and fuel, whatever, all those things. I think that's of interest, which when you talk about the deficit of special education,
Sure.
I mean, it may not equal out, but it might be at least so we can see the numbers of, because I don't know if there's a true savings on any of it. It's just, it's all part of doing business, but I'm sure we got to have a little bit of a buffer there.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Any other questions, board, for Kevin? All right.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Kevin. The next item is 3C, Southeast Polk Continuous Learning Plan. Dr. Latham.
Well, good evening, board. It's great to meet with you, even though it's in a little bit more of a unique setting than we're used to. As Dr. Hlupnik said, we're starting to get used to these, but I do look forward to the day when we're able to meet with all of our groups face to face. I do want to provide some updates on the continuous learning plan this evening. We did get that rolled out, and as this week has gone on, we have had Zoom meetings, and the plan has been shared by me and or administrators with each and every building. And that was a good thing to do because I got feedback and questions from each group of teachers, which has continued to shape the plan. So we're still learning and growing with it every day, but it is starting to take shape. And I would also echo the comments of how hard teachers are working and really embracing this and stepping up to do great things for students and families. I'm going to share my screen. So you have a copy of the continuous learning plan, and I'm just going to hit a few of the high points with that and where we are. So as we talked about earlier, we did put a continuous learning plan in place so as not to make up those days when we do eventually go back. There were two pathways, the voluntary pathway and the required pathway. After studying all the parameters of both plans, we did feel the voluntary pathway was best for us at Southeast Polk. As Dr. Hlupnik said, similar to 90% of the schools. We do know that this is recommended, but not required. We are really working to strongly recommend this for our students. We know the more they're able to engage now, the more we'll be able to build that foundation so that when we are back together in learning, we'll be able to continue that pathway. The one thing they did say to us is that it couldn't just be a list of resources. We did need to include engagement and feedback. And I'll give you some examples of what that looks like. And as was mentioned earlier, there's no grading and there's no formal attendance taking. We are taking attendance informally just so we know which students have had these opportunities so we can continue to plan for the future. So the plan components align with the state template, and you can see those there. Those are the headings from the plan, and those are the plans or the headings that were provided by the state. We did add a component of social emotional learning. We know that when the students are in school every day, we attend to those needs, and we wanted our continuous learning plan to attend to those needs as well. Another bullet on there I will talk about is professional learning. Many of us, all of us, are in completely new territory. So we are really working to capitalize on any kind of professional learning that will help us teach in this type of format. Specifically to Southeast Polk, we know that there are a lot of resources out there, a lot of links, a lot of free things, and you can get really overwhelmed with all the things that are currently out there. So our continuous learning plan is going to be very targeted around priority standards, and we are looking at the last 2 units of the school year. So typically the units that we would have after we return from spring break till the end of the year. Depending on what is decided, those will either be in a distance format or in a face-to-face format. Previously, before the continuous learning plan, we were only allowed to review previous learning. And now with the new parameters, we have an opportunity to both review previous learning as well as preview any upcoming skills. So that doesn't mean that we won't teach those again, but if we've had a chance to preview them, more students will recognize that and will hopefully be able to accelerate through some of the learning that was missed so that we can make that up and catch up to where we would typically be. The learning plan considers scaffolds for diverse learners. I know I've been meeting with buildings, and Charlie Taylor's been meeting with special education teachers. Lori Wyatt's been meeting with teachers of English language learners. And so we've had a number of different teacher groups meeting to see how they can collaborate with other teacher teams to provide those scaffolds for diverse learners. And again, we want these tasks to be more specific and targeted. These would be the types of tasks that they would have if they were in school. And as Rick mentioned, we're also making them available in a paper pencil format for those who might not have online access, for those who might not have a device if they're pre-K2, or some students learn better in that format. So I'll give more specific information on that here in just a minute. So one of the requirements of the new plan was to include engagement and feedback. So our engagement guidelines, elementary teachers who are self-contained in a self-contained classroom and have the students for all subject areas, the recommendation is that they engage with students at a minimum of 2 times per week at the elementary level. And then secondary staff is organizing the frequency based by content area. So looking at how many classes a student might have per day. In addition, each teacher is putting into place virtual office hours. These are opportunities where students or parents are able to contact the teacher either by email, phone, or through a Google Hangout for any clarification or questions that they might have. And we are using the same feedback model that we've been using with our professional learning group. And that's tied to our grading and reporting work. So we've got a process by which that is in place. And at times we will deliver that feedback in a whole group as the students engage in a digital format. And there will also be times that it will be delivered in an individual way. So we'll have feedback as a combination of both whole group and individual. So in terms of engaging with students, we have a couple of platforms that we are recommending for teachers to use with students. We have both Google Meet and Zoom. We're learning a lot. We're learning which platforms might be best in certain situations. And we also have created some professional learning around video conferencing, and included in that are guidelines for student privacy and making sure that students are safe online. We've also established some recording guidelines. So if the students are participating, we will not have recording. But if the teacher wants to record themselves teaching a lesson that the student could then watch at their own convenience or at their own time, or if they needed to rewatch a certain lesson, then we will record those. So recording for teachers, yes. Recording for students, no. So Rick had asked about the learning packets, and those are something that we are now getting into place. They will be available beginning the week of April 20th. It's been a challenge to find places to print, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to share that it will be April 20th, but I worked with Mr. Bacom, and we will have them available on Monday. They will be distributed at grab-and-go sites. We are also looking at some additional sites, and we are looking at, for example, Clay does not have a grab and go site. So we are looking at possibly distributing at Clay for any family from 5 to 6 at night. So if families are not available at lunchtime to pick up a grab and go packet, we'll have some evening distributions as well where they can pick those up. They will also be available online for printing. So if I have a printer at home and maybe I can't get to the grab and go site and pick up the packet, then I could print it online for the grade level that my student is in. So we are doing 1 packet per grade level per week. The curriculum team is taking the lead at putting those together. About 80% of the packet is split between math and English language arts. And then there are some packets for science and some packets for social studies. We've begun these for pre-K through 5. We will see what the response looks like and what the engagement looks like at the middle level grades and see if we will expand that in any way. So Dr. Hlupnik did mention the site, and it is in draft form. And I do think it's coming together very quickly due to all the work that school teams are putting in those one-stop shops. So I just want to give you a look at what this will look like. It's not live yet. And this will go on the district site under that communications section on COVID-19. So we will have our home page that just has some overall information. I think we will be showcasing some of the things, as we mentioned, the number of meals that has been served is just amazing. And then just some overall information about this site. Then if I'm a parent, I can go up here and we have all the elementary buildings here and we have the secondary buildings here. So I might come here if I have a student who goes to Delaware. I'll click on that. And here is the Delaware one-stop shop that has been put together by each of the teacher teams. So if I see Mrs. Knox in 2nd grade, I will click on that and that will have all the information when I'm going to be having Zoom meetings, when I'm going to have office hours, any teaching lessons that I have, any information that I have. So all of the teachers you can see are contributing here. We have some information on grab and go meals here. And then at the bottom of every elementary page, we have each of the grade level learning packets that are available. So again, those will be available in paper pencil and they will be available in an online format for parents as well. We know as they go up through the grades, it gets a little bit more complex. So the high school team has been doing great work on this as well. So this is the high school site. And you can see all the different subject areas up here at the top. There's a video that they created on how to use the site. And then you can click into each of the particular areas. Here is the schedule for when students can get on their Zoom links, some frequently asked questions, how to pair to Canvas, the library website, etc. So you can see that schools have done tremendous work in putting this together. We are excited for this to go live. We do think that we'll be able to go live with this on Monday. Cross our fingers, knock on wood, but we are very excited to make this available to students and families as a way to easily access that information. Last slide, and I included this here. I shared this slide with every building that we met with over the last week. And the things that we want to remember, and the first thing is that less is more. So as there's so much out there in the information age, and we really want to focus on the things that we know will be the most benefit to students. And there are times that we get overwhelmed. And there are times that we notice that students and families are getting overwhelmed. And whenever we feel that or see that, it's just a reminder to step back and take a deep breath and reduce that load a little bit. Our goal with our continuous learning plan is not to replicate daily instruction. because frankly, what the teachers do each and every day just cannot be replicated. That all the interactions that they have, all those face-to-face connections, but our goal instead is to do fewer tasks of higher quality and to give each other grace, to ourselves and to each other. You as a school board, as a central office, as teachers, as family, we are all doing and giving our very best in a very challenging time. So teachers set a very high bar for themselves. So it's important to continue to do the great quality work that they are doing, and also to step back, to breathe, and to give themselves a little grace as we are in unprecedented times, creating the best things possible that we can for our students and families. So we will continue to refine these as we get these things done. We recognize that the online platform is a different kind of classroom. So we are going to have to continue to consider ideas of how to engage students in the best way in that particular environment. And we also want to look at ways to increase participation. And we've got a good baseline going, but we want to increase that even more. So we're going to have to learn and study some new best practices in this different kind of environment, but the staff is up to the challenge, and they're making the best out of a tough situation. So I'm very proud of the work that's been produced and the teaming that's gone on to do that, and we'll continue to move forward in supporting our students and families.
Board, do you have any questions or comments?
It was a great presentation. I'm going to look forward to seeing it all roll out on Monday. I'm excited.
We are too. Thanks, Rick.
Anyone else?
I just like to, sorry. I just like to say that, I think you guys are doing a phenomenal job. It's like pretty incredible that on such short notice that you've been able to change the way that you're providing instruction. One question I did have though is, I know some of the classes my kids have been in, there's been like a very large number of, what to me seems like a large number of people in one meeting. And I know that I saw an email come out, I think a couple of days ago around behavior. I think there's kind of a varying level of kids being able to be attentive in that kind of environment. What have you learned through that so far? Is there a certain size or way to break that down that might be more effective for some of those kids?
Yes, and that is something that we're learning pretty quickly. One, we were pleased that so many students did want to participate, and some of those sessions got larger than we anticipated. So I know particularly at the middle level, we are looking at splitting up some of those sections and offering more frequent opportunities for kids to engage with smaller numbers. So we will more than likely cap some of those classes, but create more opportunities. So if you didn't get in, you have another opportunity to do that later. So one thing that we learned is that you can see the students in the gallery view, but you can only see so many on a page. And then you have to click forward to look ahead. So we're really going to have to, as we start and dip our toe into this type of learning, keep the classes smaller. And then as we learn, we can look at possibilities of maybe expanding those into larger sizes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Jason, I know you told me how to make you host again, and I said I'll have no trouble doing that, but I forgot how to do it.
Go to participants and then click on me, Southeast Polk Community School District.
Okay, I was on chat, my bad. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. I have to move my screen here. Oh, I can't see anyone.
Yeah, one thing I don't like about Zoom is when you go from sharing your screen to not, it messes up all of your windows.
Look in the top right. And if you see that dice thing again, it should let you see multiple screens.
Yeah, I'm trying. Come on.
Well, one thing I am happy to see is if you look at our attendees, there's actually about 26 people right now that are watching in, and some of them are staff. But I'm glad to see a lot of our community members as well tuning in for this type of odd situation.
Okay, I've lost the ability to see everybody. I can see you, Adam. So yeah, that's good.
But I'm glad to see the participation because this is definitely something that has illuminated that we are definitely partners in this. More so than I think even a good community setup like we've had, or at least I feel like we've had in the past, has been illuminated even more in the last 19 or 22 days, depending on who you ask, because of the situation. So I'm glad to hear you guys are listening in.
Say, Dirk, this is a question maybe for you, and I may not have it right in my head, but I mean, I was under the impression that online learning was something that was sort of prohibited until just recently. So we're trying to invent this on the fly remotely. And so I'm just amazed we've been able to do what we've been able to do so quickly. And I know people are working really hard to make it work. And yeah, we're kind of learning, but it's not that, because I've had other people say, well, how come the schools aren't ready to do this? Well, as I understood it, it was essentially against the law for us to do.
Right, exactly right. And then
Okay.
a couple weeks ago, the DE relaxed that, which was a shocking move and the right move to allow us all to do the best we can here.
My understanding is that there were only 3 districts in the entire state that had given, was it 3 districts or 3 schools that had been given authority to look into online learning
Districts.
prior. Yeah.
Districts.
So 3 out of 328 or whatever it is at this point in time.
Right.
So yeah, it's amazing to see them pick it up. So.
Well, thank you to everyone. I know the teachers are really working hard and everyone's doing their best to continue to serve these kids the best we can. And I guess we'll find out whether it's through the end of the year or not pretty soon, but stay tuned on that part, I guess.
We'll be in contact tomorrow as soon as we get that official word. Like I said, we'll probably all be watching the same live feed and get it at the same time, but certainly we have multiple contingency plans ready to take off no matter which direction it goes. So.
All right. Anyone else have anything else for the good of the matter? Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.